Howdy everyone. This is like a random, little video here because a few minutes ago I just learned that one of my favorite books ever made, Hatchet, the writer, Gary Paulsen, he passed away today at age 82. And this isn't gonna be, like a sad video. I'm not gonna cry, of course, or anything cheesy like that. I don't know. I just felt like I wanted to make something at least, right? To pay respect, if that makes sense. I'm not very good at this. Gary Paulsen, for those that don't know, that's him right there. Apparently, he's made over like 200 books, right? Like throughout his lifetime. They're basically about, survival and like, the wilderness, going outside and stuff like that. But the one that introduced me to his works was called Hatchet. And I just want to tell a little story here because Hatchet, it's my favorite book ever made, right? It's the only book that I actually remember basically almost every single detail. I've only read it maybe like twice, maybe three times in my lifetime. And it's the only book that I can confidently say that I remember almost every single detail on. Like no other book has had that kind of effect on me, right? But I remember the way I got introduced to Hatchet was basically, I was a toddler and the teacher was like, hey, you do a book report, right? And pick out any book as long as it's not Captain Underpants. And I'm like, okay, whatever. I went to the school library, right? And I'm looking through, all the books they have. I'm like, what do we have here? And you know how books are on the library? They're like sideways like this, so you only see the spine, right? I'm looking through, right? And then I see one. It was like, I think it was green, and it had like a axe, like a logo was an axe, right? And I'm looking at it, I'm like, why, there's an axe on this spine, but it says hatchet. What is hatchet? Like, I didn't speak English very well. I didn't know that hatchet and axe are basically like, the same tool. I picked it up and I remember I read through the entire book, right, from start to finish, and I couldn't put it down. And I loved it. Like I was like, oh, I was so obsessed with every single word, right? Every single chapter. I'm like, oh my God. Like I don't want to spoil anything. If you haven't read it, go read it yourself. But I just remember like Brian, he was kind of angry and sad because I believe his parents were divorced, right? He went to a plane. It was like a small little plane with it was like a bush plane. It was like a two-seat kind of plane, right? Where even the smallest movement makes the plane like kind of jiggle like hardcore, right? And I remember the pilot was, he was feeling something weird in his stomach, right? And he was like passing gas. And Brian was like, he's like, oh, trying to ignore it, because everyone farts, whatever. And then he noticed, the pilot, something, he just kind of like shook and then just kind of stopped, right? And he realized he had a heart attack. And the rest, cliffhanger here. If you want to read the rest, figure out what happens, 100% I would recommend it. It's awesome. My copy of Hatchet is actually in a box right now in storage. When I have the room finished, I can, take it out. So this is the sequel. This is part two. I think there's like four or five books, right? I was gonna say there's an autograph in here, Gary Paulsen, but I don't think that's is that real? It's not like seeping through the page. I don't think it might just be printed on there. I was like, do I have his autograph? Anyways, I only have three. I have the original Hatchet, which is in a box. I have number two, and then I have this one. It's called Guts. Basically, the true stories behind Hatchet and the entire series here. Like there's like this feeling when I read that book, right? Like I was like, you know what? I want to go outside. I want to go in the wilderness, right? I want to survive. I want to build a cabin or something like that, right? I don't want to get attacked by a moose or something, right? I'm not going to say, you know, that it would be easy or fun, but like it's just reading those words on the pages and flipping through. I felt very inspired, right? It was basically the book that got me into reading and, kind of got me thinking about, trying to go outdoors and learning about survival and stuff, right? Basically the book that makes me want to go build or buy a bow and arrow or something, right? And just practice. This is how much of an impact Hatchet had on me. Ever since I read that book, I've always wanted to get my own plane, like my own bush plane, and learn how to fly, right? Like, who does that? You know what I mean? I don't know if it's extreme, but like, I don't know. I just want to say thank you, Gary Paulsen. It's always been a dream of mine to like shake his hand, right? And thank him for creating Hatchet. It might just be a book, right? It might just be a dumb story to some people, but for some reason, part of that book has stayed with me to this day, right? And I probably read it in like, I don't know, the early 2000s or something, and it stuck with me. Like I said, that's like the only book I remember that has stuck in my brain, and I can remember basically almost every single detail. And I've only read it like twice. Gary Paulsen, I would have loved to shake your hand and to thank you, maybe take a picture or something. That would have been awesome. But I hope, you rest well. I hope your family, you know, they get through this pretty, spiffily. I don't know the right words. I hope you realize just how many people your stories, how many, like, you have changed so many lives with your stories and your words. And I hope, throughout his 82 years, I hope that he was aware how much happiness he brought to other people. Even if sometimes, some people, might feel like, they aren't grateful or, maybe they didn't express it to him. I'm sure people have sent him letters and fan mail and all that stuff throughout the years. And like I said, I know he's made probably like over 200 books and stuff. And maybe Hatchet was like his most popular one. That's the only one I, kind of read that series. But I'm sure, every single story he's made resonates with a different person, right? Like Hatchet is my, it's kind of like the big book that kind of made me want to get into reading and, just kind of learn more, right? Made me want to go outside and do all that stuff. It's not fair, right? It's not, I don't know. I wasn't prepared, right? I wasn't ready to hear this today. Metroid Dread just came out a few days ago. I was happy, excited. I'm over here just editing a little video and a few days later, I hear my boy Gary Paulsen passes away. And, I wasn't ready for that. Like I said, if you haven't read Hatchet, 100% go take a yonder. This is number 2. Go read the first one. I don't, it shouldn't take you that long to read, right? I don't remember how many chapters there are in the first book, but it's 100% my favorite book ever made. It's one that's changed my life in many ways, right? And even though I might not know how to survive, go into the wilderness and, do all that, it's something I always think about every single day. So thank you, Gary Paulsen. Thank you for, not only shaping me into who I am today, but for also, basically changing an entire generation with your stories. Rest well, my friend. Maybe I can shake your hand if, all that stuff, afterlife and whatever exists. Who knows? That's all. That's all I wanted to say. Go read Hatchet, ladies and gentlemen. It's worth the time.